English well enough that we know it's past tense. Will you please read yours in Spanish, Rihanna?
Señor Cavada fue.
Yeah, it's okay to cover it up. Good.
This is.
There you go.
Okay. Señor Cavada fue comprado mientras señor Fonda se le
Okay, good. I would call that a valiant effort. It's a good job. Let's dissect this a little bit. First sentence first. Señor Corbata fue de compras. When we use shopping, we say ir de compras. Ir de compras. The only verb you conjugate is the ir part, so it's fue de compras. He went shopping. Why did you use fue?
Because it he went.
He? Good.
Yeah.
Yes, he went. He went shopping. But you use the present preterite as well, right? Preterite or imperfect? There. Does anybody know she used the preterite or imperfect? She used the preterite, and if you hold up, or if you look at that verb chart I gave you yesterday, you'll see that the preterite form of ir is fui, fue, fueron, fuiste, and so on and so forth. So he went, that event began and ended, he went. Mientras, while, good, okay, mientras, while Señora Bufanda was washing her clothes. It's incorrect. Ropa is correct. But how do we say she was washing her clothes? Anybody out there help us out a little bit here? What do you think, sir?
Estaba lavando.
That is one way to say it. Let's not write that down. That is a perfect way to say it. Estaba lavando. We've switched into the imperfect there. I'm saying estaba lavando. She was washing. There's another way to say it using the verbs we know, and that would be Señora Bufanda lavaba la ropa. Lavaba. That's how I'd like for you to write it up there. It's lavaba, good, la ropa. Washing her clothes. All right. Let me move this for a second here. That's how I want you to write it, folks. We have now switched from the preterite to the imperfect. We're using both types of past tense in the same sentence. Why are we doing that? Well, we're going to talk a little more about that today. The key here is, let me back up. If we used the preterite here, if we said, La señora Bufanda lavó su ropa, she washed her clothes, that would be okay. But the sentence we were looking for is, she was washing. She was washing. It was an ongoing thing in the past. So we use lavaba. Lavaba. We're going to talk a little more about that, quite a bit more about that today. That's kind of what we're focusing on. When do we use preterite? When do we use the imperfect? And why? Any questions about this sentence? Why something's the way it is or why it's not at the moment? 34 students. No question. I guess I'm doing my job. Perfect. Okay, please sit down, Rihanna. That's a point for you. Nice work. Next, folks, I would like to introduce a new verb to you. And I'm going to do it in Spanish. Entonces, escuchen muy bien, por favor. El verbo es mientras. El verbo es llevar. Llevar. ¿Alguien aquí sabe qué significa llevar en inglés? ¿Qué es llevar? ¿Qué? To rain? Llover. Llover. Cry? Llorar. Llorar.
To take.
To take? Puede ser. To take? Anything else? To carry? Lindsay?
To wear.
To wear. Muy bien. Today, hoy día, vamos a usarlo para decir en inglés to wear. You can write this down somewhere if you'd like to. It's some good notes to have. Okay. Llevar. To wear. Un ejemplo. Hoy día, today, this very day, hoy día, yo llevo una camisa negra. También llevo pantalones verdes. ¿Okay? Yo, tú, él, ella, usted, nosotros, ellos, ellas, ustedes. 2 puntos para la persona que puede conjugar este verbo completamente para cada pronombre. 2 puntos eran,
Is this present?
sí, en el presente, por favor, presente.
Llevo.
Yo, dile los dos.
Yo llevo.
Yo llevo,
Yo lleves.
tú
Tú lleves.
lleves,
Uh,
tú llevas,
él lleva.
él, ella, usted lleva, muy bien,
Nosotros llevamos.
llevamos,
Ellos, ellas, ustedes llevan.
llevan. Muy bien, 2 puntos para tu Aaron. Yo llevo, tú llevas, él, ella, usted lleva, nosotros llevamos, ellos, ellas, ustedes llevan. 2 puntos para la persona, Marisa, que puede cambiarlo al pasado pretérito. El pretérito, incluso los pronombres. Dime. 20 segundos, menos de 20 seconds.
Llevé,
Yo llevé,
llevaste,
quiero esto también.
tú llevaste.
Tú llevaste,
Llevó,
él, ella, usted llevó,
nosotros llevamos,
nosotros llevamos, muy bien.
ustedes llevaron,
Ustedes, ellas, ellos
llevaron,
llevaron. Muy bien. Marisa, 2 puntos para ti. Mira, presta atención a esto. Mira, yo llevo, él, ella, usted llevó. We have an accent over the O here to distinguish it from this one, right? If you just said llevo without using any of your pronouns, if you just said llevo, it may be difficult to understand if you're talking about he or she carried or wore or I wear. That's why we have these accents there. So those are crucial. You gotta write those in. When you're writing them, you've gotta speak them when you're speaking them. Yo llevo, él llevó. Right? There's a difference there. 2 puntos para la persona que puede, Austin, cambiarlo al pasado imperfecto. Perfecto. 20 segundos.
Yo llevaba,
Yo llevaba.
tú llevabas,
Tú llevabas.
él, ella, usted llevaba,
Muy bien. Llevaba. Son igual. Son lo mismo.
nosotros llevábamos,
Llevábamos.
ellos, ellas, ustedes llevaban.
Muy bien. Llevaban. Okay, muy bien. Couple things I want you all to notice. Look at present tense does not change from the preterite at all. That's the same with all AR ending verbs. And then I already noticed the rest. Your accents. Which verb from our verb chart yesterday does this most closely resemble? There were 3 verbs that I gave you. I gave you 3 verbs and I conjugated them all. Which one does this represent or most closely resemble? Josh? Yorar, but I didn't have that on the verb chart yesterday. The one I gave you. Oh, comprar. It's comprar. And the reason it resembles the most because they're both AR ending verbs. You conjugate them the exact same way. All right. So you're going to take the next minute, folks, in English instructions. Take the next minute to look at your partner, the person you're sitting next to, and write one sentence about what they wear today, what they're wearing. He, she wears this. Add some colors, add some descriptions. You have 1 minute to write it down. Please save it because you're going to use it again tomorrow. And just so you know, I'm El. I'm a he, okay? So you're talking about them, you're not talking to them. You're not saying como me veo, como te ves, nothing like that. It's just él, ella, lleva esto. What are they wearing? What are they wearing?
It's spelled the same way.
Does that make sense to me?
llevas,
Did that answer your question?
Ale llevas, chaqueta negro, Alec lleva, Alec lleva, Alec lleva,
Good, Andre. Good. You're on the right track. Negros.
Yep.
Need help? Yeah, ask him. Okay, you got about 10 more seconds.
Marty will.
Bueno, mis jóvenes, guárdalo para mañana, put that somewhere for tomorrow, and hang on to it. We're through with that. Okay? Just that quick. Just that quick. Good. Okay, so now comes the exciting stuff. Alright. So as I mentioned when I first started here, I was speaking English when talking about grammar, so that you really understood what it was that we were talking about. So the next 10 minutes or so, we're going to talk about the difference between imperfect and preterite, and when we use one or the other. So please, open your books to page 290. 290. Hopefully you have enough to share. We might have one extra around. Alright, you'll notice that I've blown up pretty much the same verb charts. Not verb chart, I'm sorry. I've blown up the same box, grammar box that you have on page 290. Some of the words look a little bit different. We're going to go over this, and I'd like for you to take notes. So, you need to do something like this. We're going to use a T-chart to make some decisions here. So I heard a groan. That means somebody's familiar with a T-chart. What do we use T-charts for? Math? Is that what we usually use them?
X and Y.
What can we use them for other than math?
Compare.
Huh? For English, Spanish? Good, for all sorts of stuff. But what concept? What function? What function do they serve?
Compare and
contrast. Hey, that's what I'm looking for. Compare and contrast. All right. What do you think we're going to compare and contrast here?
English.
Not exactly. Good. You got it. You got some sharp cookies. If you have questions as we're doing this, please raise your hand and ask me, but otherwise I'm going to keep moving pretty quickly through it because I like to practice this stuff. Seeing it is one thing, but practicing is even better. So preterite and imperfect. Brandon Patterson, will you please, do you have a book back there? Yeah. Will you please read number 1 in the top of this chart, starting with number 1, both the imperfect.
Both the imperfect and preterite are tenses used to talk about the past. They can be used together in the same sentence.
Okay, this we know, don't we, Trey? This we know, right?
Yeah.
The microwave even told you. This we know. They can be used in the same sentences. They both describe the past. We know this much. Let's find out something we don't know. Number 2, Zach, will you read number 2, please? Okay, Stop right there. Good. We use the imperfect to talk about what things were like. This is where you're taking notes. What things were like and what was going on. What things were